So for today's Sunday sabbatical, I sat down with Diana Buttu, who is a well-known human rights lawyer that lives in Ramallah and has worked on the cause of the dignity and sovereignty of Palestinian people for many years. I called her and I asked her, what should we make of this peace agreement, so-called peace agreement between Israel and Hamas, but really brokered by the United States and Israel, without even bringing the Palestinians into the negotiations. Her thoughts were, as always, clear, ardent, smart, and so interesting. Here's Diana Buttu. So, so President Trump sent out a message on Truth Social that this was great and everyone would be treated fairly, and this was a long-term victory for all Israelis and Palestinians. I'm imagining you have a different view of what is transpiring, particularly from the Palestinian perspective. And I just wanted to ask you what's the significance that the Palestinians were not in the least bit involved in these negotiations?
Where do I begin? So first of all, I think it's really important to say that the idea that we had to negotiate an end to genocide is really repulsive.
Right.
And that there were even negotiations like that people had to negotiate an end to famine with the very people who are starving them is disgusting.
Yeah.
This was something that, as you know, there should have been sanctions put on Israel long ago. Israel made it absolutely clear what they were intending to do and what they were doing. And so the idea that they were that this was something up for negotiations is disgusting to me. That said, when you look at the plan as a plan, President Trump went around, he spoke to all of these different leaders, and he didn't speak to any Palestinians.
Yeah.
And he didn't even let the Palestinian president, Mahmoud Abbas, go to the US to give a speech before the UN. And so that says something. And then he comes out with this plan. And when you look at law and where we are in the world, there's been this process of like decolonization, except when it comes to Palestine, where it's going in the exact opposite direction. So you ask, like, why is it that what was like that there's no Palestinians at the table? It's because we're going in the exact opposite direction. It's somebody else determining Palestine's future. And who is that somebody else? Trump. And who is he choosing? The butcher of Baghdad, Tony Blair. And I'm sorry, but who invited you, Tony Blair? I didn't invite you to my house. People from Gaza didn't invite you to their house. And so why are you coming? We didn't invite you.
Right.
On whose authority are you coming?
Right. Well, what should have happened if instead of negotiating your way out of a genocide, and then the world seems to have forgotten, or is willfully looking the other way, and a famine and apartheid and the illegal occupation. There's a long list of human rights violations that Israel has committed continually, and international courts have recognized.
Yes.
But this agreement seems to ratify those violations of international law in the name of peace.
Yes, that's the problem. This is exactly the problem. So, and we've been down this path before. We've seen this movie. We know the ending, and it's a horrible movie. This is exactly the whole point, is that Israel loves going down this path of having what should be international, which should be the world putting sanctions on Israel for violating international law, committing genocide, committing crime of genocide, for an illegal occupation. We have the International Court of Justice said that it's illegal, for committing the crime of apartheid. Instead of the international community coming in and doing what it's supposed to be doing, it turns it into a bilateral issue. So it's now no longer, it's out of that international arena. And now it's just us and some other guy in a room, and we're just going to negotiate it out. And what that does is that it takes it out of the spotlight, one, and then it puts it into the same power dynamic that the occupation is. Like it reinforces that power dynamic. And you're right. This is exactly my fear, is like people are going to look away now that there's an agreement. They're going to look away from the daily violence that Israel metes out against Palestinians.
Right.
And not only the daily violence, like now genocide has been normalized.
Right.
Genocide has been normalized.
Right.
Catherine, over the past 2 years, I'm just starting to process all of this. Israel bombed 36 hospitals.
Right.
36 hospitals.
With
Israel
people
killed
in them who were getting
with
care.
people in them, with people in them getting care. 270 journalists, some of them my friends. One of them getting treatment. Hassan Slay, he was getting treated in one of the hospitals at the time. And that's become normalized.
Right.
That's become the new normal.
Well, and there's not one university or school left in Gaza. We've in the academic community framed this as a kind of scholasticide that's also taking place in the West Bank. I'd add that it's not certainly not just in Gaza. But as I was working over the last couple of years with students at Columbia and across the campus, but also with faculty, the first demand was for a ceasefire. The second demand was to recognize the genocide. We have this agreement. What should activists on campuses in the US, on the streets of New York and San Francisco and Chicago, whatever, what should we be demanding now? Because we've got
accountability.
Accountability. Yeah.
Accountability. There's no way that to move forward unless Israel's held to account. That's it. Like Israel must be held to account. Otherwise, this is going to happen again and again and again and again. Look at the Nakba. Israel was never held to account for the Nakba. And that's why you see opinion polls inside Israel where 82% of them think that it's okay to ethnically cleanse Gaza.
Yeah.
And it's probably higher even now. That poll was done in March. It's probably even higher now. And not only that, they say 56% say it's okay, that they would want to ethnically cleanse Palestinians who hold Israeli citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
And that the younger you get, the higher that percentage is. And it's because they were never held to account. Talk about de-radicalization. It's like they've never been held to account. And because they've never been held to account, no soldier, no, none of them. It just becomes like, oh, I can do whatever I want with Palestinians. Like they're just my shooting targets, my target practice.
Well, no one comes to the rescue of Palestinians, and no one comes to hold Israel and the U.S., I would say. What Israel does is it can only do with U.S. support. Neither of those entities are held to account. Yeah. Well, I worry if we rely too heavily on the International Court of Justice, ICJ, or other international legal institutions, they may issue an opinion. No one will care. It's like the opinion on the wall, a resounding rebuke of the construction of the wall by the Israelis, capturing Palestinian land, and it didn't matter. So what might matter?
But so here's the thing, is that I think that we're in a completely different, this is what I'm trying to get, is I think we're in a completely different situation, which is that in every other case, there was political will to address those other situations.
Yeah.
Here, there is no political will.
Right.
And that's the part that is so shocking to me. Like when you see that virtually all human rights organizations have said this is genocide. You have the Association of Genocide Scholars saying the same. You have two Israeli human rights organizations, late to the game, but still saying that it's genocide. Scholar after scholar saying it's genocide. And the UN saying that it's genocide, plus another report that just came out, I think today, also saying it's genocide. And yet, you still have states that are continuing to fund, to send weapons, to have trade relations, to do business with, like all of that, and to have FIFA, sporting events and music events. I have not seen that in other contexts,
Hmm.
right? Like Israel is just given, is always an exception, exception, exception.
Right.
And so what I'm trying to say is that all of that system failed. As you put it, the ICJ, we can wait for an ICJ, but they're just going to ignore it. It's, yes, you're right. And so that's why I think our energy has to be on the activism side, that we can use that as the backdrop, but our energy has to be on the activism side. And so this is what I'm getting at is like, I know that states aren't going to move, but people are.
Right. Well, there are European countries that Prime Minister Netanyahu has to fly around when he comes to New York.
Yes. Yes.
And if we get Mayor Mamdani in New York City, he has pledged that he will arrest a person for whom there's a warrant for his arrest from the International Criminal Court.
Yeah.
We'll see if he has the guts to do that or is actually able to do it. But it's my hope that those kinds of incremental shifts will shift the dynamic more generally. But I don't have great hopes, obviously, about our federal government, during this
No,
administration. But the U.S. isn't the only game in town for sure. So thank you,
correct.
Diana, for giving me a moment.
My
Um,
pleasure.
yeah, I've had you on my mind so much. You've been so articulate in so many
Thank
places
you.
about what's going on. I feel like you're the one voice that, well, there are, a few other good people, but you have a particularly clear voice of what's at stake and why this is all going so wrong. And thank you for that. So,
Thank you.
yeah.